Hello guys, welcome back to another video. So in this particular video, we are going to be integrating Supabase Get Sign-In into a Next.js application, right? So for this video, we already have a poll application set up, right? So basically what it does is for us to create instant polls, right? You could vote and also see results in real time. So the goal today is just to allow users to sign in as guests, right? To access these features. First, let me show you the app as it stands today. So this is just a simple polling app where users can create polls, vote on them, and view the results. So we're using Supabase as our backend to handle the data and the CRUD operations, right? And they are all connected to the Supabase database. So the next step, right? We basically want to add Supabase Get Sign-In into the app. This basically allows the app, right? Allows users to be able to interact with our app without needing an account. Users can vote, users can see results without going through the registration process. So if you take a look at what we currently have here, we just have a polling application. We get to create new polls. We can't really access the features right now because we need to be authenticated before we can do that. So we have a demo poll here, which is just dummy, doesn't really do much. Get to vote. You need to sign in to vote. Definitely is not gonna work. You can get to see the result of this particular poll that was created, and this data is all coming from Supabase database. So now you'll be asking yourself, why should you integrate anonymous sign-in? So yes, why? So with anonymous sign-in, user doesn't need to go through they don't need to go through sign-up processes. They can just jump into the app and start interacting. For app like what we have currently, the goal is just to make sure that users have quick inputs without any barriers to entry. Basically makes the experience smoother and less friction filled. So think about it like this. If your app use cases involve quick interaction like voting or one-time actions, Get Sign-In is always perfect. So users doesn't need to remember credentials or go through multiple steps. Then on that case, why you might want to integrate Get Sign-In in your application, right? For your authentication. Some users prefer to remain as a guest, and this way they can engage with the app without needing to share any personal details. And this can also be a big advantage for apps that prioritize user privacy. Now, let's quickly just jump right into code. So if you take a look at our code right now, we just have a Next.js application, app router, and we pretty much have some pages. We have the create page, which is basically just creating our poll for us. Then we have the poll page where we get to see the dynamic poll, right, that is being created. Then you also have the results page where you get to see the dynamic results for a particular poll that was created on our app. Then we have the base page, which just takes in the button as we've seen in the preview. Then we get to see the recent polls, and this is just a component that brings in all the polls, right? We're fetching all the polls from Supabase. So like I said, this video is basically going to concentrate on integrating Supabase Get Sign-In, right? We are not going to be looking at how to interact with data or how to fetch from the database in our Next.js application. We'll be doing that in future videos. So in this particular video, we're just going to be handling the authentication with Supabase Auth. Okay, so we have the poll, and one important piece of the code I just want to show you before we jump right into this is the client where we have here. So basically what we're just doing here is we're trying to interact with Supabase clients, taking in our environmental variables, which we all brought in from Supabase. Walk to Supabase before you get to have access to these particular environmental variables. So this is what we currently have, and this is we're basically using our clients in our application to interact, to fetch data, to make requests to the database and update the database. So now the next thing we need to do here, right, is quickly take a look at how we could integrate the sign-in, right, with Supabase Auth to our application. So let's quickly go to our auth provider. So we have an auth provider that wraps around our whole application, right? So this auth provider basically checks for if there's a user section, and if there's a user section, we pass in our user, then we pass in the loading states, then we're passing in the sign in and the sign out. So the sign in and sign out right now are just asynchronous functions that don't do anything right now. And we are basically going to fill it on this video. So let's quickly go back to the header. So we have a component called header and get to see what's going on there. So on the header, we're basically checking for if there's a user, right? Then we just want to return an avatar. Then this is just a button that says sign in. So this sign in basically is just going to undo odds. And let's quickly just show this real quick. Go up here and say, okay, undo odds. What's it supposed to do? So if there's a user, sign out. Else, we're going to sign in, right? So we're just reusing this particular function for our sign in and sign out. So if there's a user at that point to be signing, right, then we're basically going to show our avatar, then show a button to sign out the particular guest user. Else, we're just going to show a button of sign in. Now, if you quickly go back to our browser and see what we currently have here, then we're going to be seeing a sign in button over here. So we're currently not signed in. So if we go back to the auth provider where we are passing in our functions, right, to sign in. All we need to do here is very quick and easy, right? So basically we're going to say we could just wrap this in a try and catch since this is an asynchronous function, right? We're just going to say try, then we take in, we create a cons, right? And we could just take in error for now. Then this is just going to await our Supabase. Remember, we already have a Supabase client we created. Then our Supabase client auth dot sign in. We're basically looking for this sign in, and we could say if there's an error, right, at this point we're just gonna throw an error. Then we could write a catch, right, a catch that just log our error for now. We're not really doing much with our error signing in. Yep, okay, we could just leave it as error. Nice. So we basically have our sign in function right now, and just with this line we can interact with our Supabase auth, right, and say, okay, I want all my users to be signing as guests. All right, so let's quickly just jump right into our browser and test this real quick. Okay, so we could basically open up our network tab here just to see what's going on. So let's try it again. So if you say sign in, okay, cool, so let's see what we have here. So it says there's an error that says unprocessable content. Amazing. So it basically says anonymous sign-in are disabled with this particular method. So let's quickly jump to Supabase. Go to dashboard, and we basically want to look for the particular project we have here. I think this should be it. Then we have how to activate this. We just quickly jump right into authentication, then sign up and sign in. Then this is where we enable our guest sign-in, right? So we're basically enabling guest sign-in for our projects, and save changes. Then I think we're good to go. So we quickly go back to our application and try it all over again. So we say, okay, this user sign in, and this user has been signed in successful. Now we basically could check the response. Let's see the response of what we have here, right? So we have a user with an access token, we have the refresh token, we have the token type, and we have the user ID. Then for the user ID, email is empty, obviously, because this was created as a guest user, right? So there's no email. The phone is empty, the last sign-in is here, and we get to see other response. User metadata is obviously empty. So now we have a user. Now, if there's a user in our application, meaning that at this point we can create a poll, right? Now we could try, okay, say what's the best movie 2024. Then we could say basically we could say Superman, Superman and Louis. We could say what else? We could say The Flash. We could add more options. We could say just say Spider-Man. These are just dummy data. I think most of these movies are not from last year. So we could create a poll, right? Creating the poll, successfully created this poll, right? And we're taken to the poll page. So now let's go back to the landing. So now it says what's the best movie in 2024. You can get to vote, and when you get to the page, you get to choose, okay, Superman and Lois, The Flash, or Spider-Man. So for this user, we're just gonna say Spider-Man. Spider-Man should be the best movie in 2024. Submit the votes, and you can get to see the results. So right now we have just one vote for Spider-Man, and our user is still signing. So once the user is signing, the user will be able to interact with like a login user without providing any personal information. That should be it for adding guest signing in your Next.js application. So just with one line of code, you're able to add anonymous signing to our application, and see you in the next one.